Hello everyone, today is October 13th, 2021. My name is Tatiana Zaytseva. I'm here at Natural Pigments and I'm assisted like always by George O'Hanlon. And today we will talk about probably the most important topic, most important after surfaces, of course. Surfaces is the, if whoever already listened our lessons or had our workshops, understanding your supports is probably the most important part, but today we will talk about lead white. Before we talk about this, I wanted kind of address what happened this week in our office. And so not often, but once in a while we have email from a customer, and this particular one was about painting best practices workshop. And customer wrote, I would love to learn about saying techniques and historical, he put something like historical appliance of the painting, but $450 it's too much. And if you would reduce the cost to $100, maybe I will consider to take your course. I didn't answer to this customer because I was too upset, and I thought I will not be nasty on the email, but today I thought I will address that to this customer specifically, and for people who want to know about painting best practices workshop. So that workshop was done 7.5 years, right before Corona. George and I, we were going all over the world and different countries, and we were giving 3 days workshop. Workshop was full of information. We cover everything from supports to grounds to pigments to mediums, varnishes, brushes, and studio safety. All of that, none of your schools are covering. And we do understand that it is important for you to take classes from your peer artists and whom you admire, and because you do need to learn from them, take their skills, their education and their talent, and to see how that will work for you. And for me, interesting, then you are willing to pay, for classes between $300 to $600 for 3 days. And here you are. This is information what none of the schools and not many artists can give you. You question the cost of that information, and I can tell you this. So 7 years we had this class. People were overwhelmed with information, and finally Corona put this to an end where we put finally to internet, and so where you can for $450 have 36 hours of your time, and you can learn as long as you want. And if you will divide that time to hours, that money to hours, it will cost per hour it will be $12.50, which basically minimum average salary this time in the country. So this is my answer to that customer, and to people who want to know about this painting best practices. Now we have website, and we committed to you. After class, we do have a group, like every last Saturday of the month we meet each other, and then you can ask any questions what you developed through the last session of your study, or if you already was with us in any classes at any point at 8 years, please go back to us, come back and ask questions. We always, George and I, on last Saturdays of the month, we meet you at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Another bad news. So I know we first announced the live class in October, October, end of the October, beginning of November. We forced to actually do not have this class because due to a very busy time for George, he's very busy, and unfortunately we can't take that time this time for the class, live class. So what we will do, we probably will push it to January. So I know some of you will be disappointed, and I apologize for that. It's just hectic happening right now in our company. Because another thing, I need to apologize to you. Last month we were too enthusiastic about lead white coming to our office, and we were promised to have that batch of pigment in our facility by beginning of September, and it's pushed to October. I won't immediately tell you, so don't worry. Yesterday lead arrived to our company, and today our production guys already started the first batch of our regular lead white number 1 and 2. It will take probably another week and week and a half before we release to you. So but since you are here today, you are first to know about this, and that's why you saw I pushed it first on September 22nd, then October 14th. Then yesterday I completely took out the time, but it's for sure lead is now in the factory. And the good part of this, we will end up with lead white number 3. And that is the one what I was talking on September. And so it does have bigger particles. It does not behave how we would want to put in the tube. It would be perfect to make your own paint, but it's absolutely, since we don't put any additives, so it's very difficult time for us to process. But once we figure out the formula or how to work with that lead, we definitely will release to you, and we will explain what is the lead white number 3. Every color on our palette, on Rublev palette, took at least year and a half to learn how to deal with one or another. It's why Rublev Colours didn't go to big stores, and we still don't. We are still going with big, small independent stores, but that's because we needed to learn character of every color. And so this lead is quite the new one. Lead white number 3 is quite different. It will take time for us to understand, but once we will learn, we would know the flow. So let's talk today about lead white, and so it's very exciting topic for us, and for some of you too. And I know people who absolutely can't stay the lead white and upset with us about promoting that. So for these people, I don't want to read your comments, and so please, if you don't like lead white, just leave right now, and we will be peacefully going different ways, because the truth is you don't need to use lead white if you don't want. But we do explain already so many times, did explain how it's important, and we will talk today. George will help me today to explain again. And like always, we will show you small rolik, and so the video we will explain what we are showing. You please ask the questions, and after that I will show you again swatches, how that lead white will look with different colors. And we will cover today again yellowing, because we felt like it was not enough emphasis on last time. Let's go. white number 1, it's basic lead carbonate, and we ground that in linseed oil. From all our lead whites, based on our last events videos, I would say then this probably the stiffest one. What we sell every day, that's what meaning. So I will show you stuck lead. It was a little bit different, but stuck lead was not every day in our sale. So, but lead white, you can see how, pay attention how strong peaks are standing as when you tap the palette knife.
Just a reminder, lead white number 1 is ground in linseed oil.
Linseed oil. Lead white number 2 ground in walnut oil, and immediately you will see the difference in behavior. Long time, lead white number 2 and Flemish white were the longest colors on our palette. These days, if you saw our session on September, I showed you mixing white is longer, and today you will see we will have another one color, very interesting. And you can see that would be Lithopone, so that would be the long one. You can see how lead white number 2 in walnut oil more fluffy and more stringy. In fact, when you will paint with brush, you will have the thin needle, or how is that so to say, George, needles going, or threads going between your brush and palette. Don't be scared, don't be alarmed, this is normal, this is what lead white number 2 does. Stuck Flake White. We were proud to announce that on September 30th we finally had stuck lead after almost 2 years we didn't have. And what I'm showing you here, you see how difficult for me was to squeeze that color from the tube. That was batch 1 before. That is the batch of 2019, and you can see how tacky and stiff, but it's immediately giving long strings. More you play with that, more it's melting. And about stuck lead, you probably will have more questions about, and so we definitely will explain to you more when we will show the swatches. It is very unusual color, it's very expensive, and you can see how it started melting. Here almost impossible to see, then this color looks actually like dingy white. It's not exactly the bright white what you experience with a lead white number 1 or 2, or even more visible will be with titanium white. But for now it still look very white. Are there any questions, George, about stuck lead, or we will answer later?
Hillary asks if, she says, let me see here, lead white seems to have a pinkish cast.
Once in a while, Hillary, it's possible. So it's batch to batch, and as much as we saying then interesting, lead white is synthetic pigment, and it's supposedly be the same every time when we produce, and it's not. That's how we had our dusty rose, because it came batch completely pink. You're right, once in a while it happens. So Here's titanium white, and you can see how it's, even from the tube, you will see how different behave. Very fluffy, there's no body at all. And again, it's very unusual about our titanium. We don't put any fillers, which very unusual for titanium, for production of titanium, because all other companies are putting fillers there because it's very powerful, and it probably would be wise to put fillers like, let's say, barium sulfate, chalk, mica, whatever you have in your studio. That would be good to add to tune down a little bit of this powerful color. But since we don't put any fillers or additives, so we left as it is, and it's in my mind it's not very interesting color, but again it's very useful because it's the brightest white. Lithopone, and this is 19th century color, or 20th even century, yes, George?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
19th
developed
century
late
stuff.
19th century, but it really came into use on the artist palette in the 20th.
And you can see how how long that is. Of course, on September we were showing mixing white that was doing almost the same. But this one, Lithopone, is very interesting. Again, it's very bright white color, very transparent compared to titanium. Yes, very transparent. Again, you see no body. It's leveling out immediately. And again, if you don't want to paint with lead white, that's could be your choice. It doesn't. It dries so long. It's unbelievable. So it will stay open on your palette for a long time. Again, if you need to speed up the drying time, you need to mix with some kind of another pigment. Barite. Oh, here I will point for you. So Barite, one of these pigments, what giving this, I guess it's connection with oil and the pigment itself to aluminum, giving once in a while this residue. It's not rust, George. How to say it's the residue? What would be? So it's grayish.
It's just a grayish residue that gets
Yeah.
onto around the nozzle.
So we had one customer who was upset with that, and so we keep sending new tube, and so she still keep finding some dark residue, and until we figure out that this is what she was talking about. This is the residue on the nozzle, and we can't do anything because that's the reaction on the pigment itself with the oil and aluminum. So for now we can go back. Okay, we're back to here, and I would like to show you some swatches, and I will try to compare to how to mix with colors. I want to warn you, so because when I'm looking at camera and on my swatches, it's a little bit shift color, and we were trying yesterday one way or another. I will tell you if it's going warmer or cooler. Okay, let's look on this camera, George. So this all our whites, not lead whites, because 3 of them not. So here's lead white, number 1, and you see it's slightly yellowish. Lead white number 2, because it's ground in walnut oil, so it's slightly lighter. Here's our dusty rose, our happy incident. So we don't usually produce that, but once in a while, again, when the color come too pinkish, so that probably would be our future color too. So here's stuck lead, and you can see how dingy that color looks like compared to other whites. And what I want to show you yesterday, not yesterday, a week ago, I closed that. And yesterday I opened the card, and you can see here's little bit what's darkening. Here you can see here darkening a little bit, yellowing. And here's lighter shade. Nothing happened to Lithopone. It didn't change at all. And so I hope you can see even, because, okay, here. And so that's how Barite looks like. And I want to tell you, this is not a color basically, because Barite in linseed oil looks completely transparent. What dark spot here, it's actually oil. So when you mix your color, your Barite with any color, it will make just color a little bit more transparent, and I will show you in a second. And so, and here's titanium, and you can see how glossy titanium is. And so on some of them too, it's developed the glass, but titanium the most. So you can see, yes. Okay. So let's see now how it mixes with the color. So again, on it's blue rich yellow ochre. If you know how look like our blue rich yellow ochre, you know then it's not that orangey. So it's actually more greenish side. But here's at least I see on my screen as a more orangey color. But what I wanted to show you, so how it mixes in with lead white, number one, number two, and stuck lead, you basically you can't see the difference. So again, all the difference only on behavior of these colors, but not on appearance. Here's the Lithopone. You see how brighter that is? So right here. And so Barite, that's what Barite does to the color. It makes that brighter. And if you put enough, so it will be even like more transparent. Think it's like this. We have Velasquez medium and Impasta medium in our line of colors, and both of them using we use chalk, and on Impasta we use a little bit of Barite. Oh, thank you very much. So we use Barite and chalk, and you know then when you add Velasquez or Impasta medium too much, you can make that color very transparent. So Barite essentially the same. In fact, on many companies, Barite does used as a filler. So because it doesn't have its own color, but it's bulk up the color, and it's making basically pigment pigment particles separate from each other. So let's go back to titanium, and you can see how immediately that shifted the color. So that's blue rich yellow ochre. Let's go to Verona. Here's how Verona looks alone. Here with lead white, and again you can see almost know the difference between three colors. Here's Lithopone, and you see now you can see, because Verona is very transparent as it is, and so with Barite it's even more transparent. And you see how immediately bluish cast on the Verona with titanium, because titanium is very cool color, cool white, compared to very warm lead. Here's our Viridian. That's how Viridian looks like. All very powerful color, but very transparent. And again, here's our three whites. Lithopone. You see how with Barite it's very transparent. And completely blue right here. It's very blue cast with titanium. Here's our Ultramarine. And again, the same. Here's a little bit not visible, but Lithopone is making a little bit brighter. and this with titanium. Here's our cobalt. Cobalt, very again, it's very powerful. It's color, and I can't even. We don't. I think it's only one, the a peg color among all our blue colors. We don't have many, because again, it's every time single pigment, and we don't have any King's Blue where company forced to mix 4 to 5 pigments. So it's always one pigment. Cobalt blue is one pigment, and you can see how it's looking with titanium. Here's lead white, here's titanium. And here's cadmium. With cadmium, basically you can see any difference with lead or titanium. Cadmium is so powerful. The only difference I can see, I don't know if you see on your screen, the only difference I can see on barite. And that's very important to understand then, because when people buy barite, they think then it's like off-white color. It is not. It's completely transparent, and sometimes people are upset because they think they buy the color. And so we could do to put barite as a medium too, but barium sulfate is the pigment, as same as of course calcium carbonate as a chalk, but we thought that would be logical to put barite as a pigment instead of putting as a medium. So, but again, barite you can put even on top of your color. So if you need to tune down a little bit, remember then what we were showing then, oil will be staying on top. So just be careful with that color. Now I would like to show you. So is there any questions, George?
There's lots of questions.
Okay,
do you
let's
want to
start.
deal with them now, or?
We can do now, and then we can show. Is stuck with linseed?
Linseed oil.
Yes, yes, it's with linseed oil. Again, working with museums and restorers and scientists, we understand that the most sane oil for the oil painting is the linseed oil. And again, if you want to know more why we specifically choose linseed oil, we do have lessons on that, or you can read on our website. And if you, George, want to add something brief about why linseed oil?
Linseed oil is a faster dryer, and it's more reactive with certain colors like lead. And that was just a choice that we made. We thought it would be best, especially with the stack process.
We do have a couple colors mixed with walnut oil, and it was not the idea that to make the color brighter, how people think then, like, other companies are making with safflower or poppy or walnut, whole line of walnuts. So it was not about brightness of the color, but it's about behavior. Because if you ever mix in your own colors and you mix one with linseed oil, another one with walnut, you will see the difference in behavior. Is titanium more transparent without fillers?
No, it's actually the opposite.
It's opposite.
Yeah.
It's opposite. So think it's fillers. It is pigments. Anyhow you look. So like titanium has a pigments, and extender pigments have pigments. So, but they are transparent. So imagine you putting titanium pigments, and between them you are spreading with transparent pigments. So that's how it spreads, and it's actually much more transparent. We do suggest for you to use fillers in that case. When you buy our titanium, it will be very powerful, and sometimes it's needed. So like we always say, that's why we come up with lead titanium for you, so then at least it will mitigate of the all imperfections of titanium by lead. But You can use Barite, you can use chalk, so anything. What is the ratio titanium lead and titanium lead mix? I do believe it's 50-50, but nope. Okay.
Nope. It's 30% because
we are giving you all our secrets.
Yeah, when you try to do anything 50-50, you really don't get the benefit of either pigment.
Oh.
So we did it 30% titanium and 70% lead. So that's the lead titanium color.
When I'm saying 50-50, obviously, because in like, let's say Ceruse and Venetian, I'm just telling you so then it is there. So obviously the formulas are different. So and it's just for you to understand, then we do mix that colors. And so that was September session. Since Lithopone is all...
So people are confused with the zinc in Lithopone. So some people think it's zinc white.
No, that is actually zinc. George,
that's the same thing.
Yes.
So the same question here.
Okay.
So Lithopone is zinc sulfide and barium sulfate. So it's a double compound, and the zinc sulfide does not have the same reaction as zinc oxide. So just to let people know, this is one example of zinc that is safe.
It's many of them, but one on our line, and we knew then that question will pop up. It's why we always, on everywhere when you read about Lithopone, we specifically write then it's zinc sulfate. So then you absolutely understand that this is not zinc oxide, two different chemicals. Do you want to go to swatches, or
there's more questions?
Okay. With ultramarine blue, does the lead white #1 appear to make the paint more transparent than it is on its own? No, it's again, it's white. It's not as much as we want to say. Then it's obviously a little bit warmer than titanium, but no, it's not. And I can go back and very quickly show you. So it's just you can.
Sorry.
And we can do it. Yes. So it's probably looking like more transparent, but no, it is not. So it's just shifting the color, or I need to learn the.
It's tinting the color.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Tinting.
So it's not. Ultramarine blue is fairly transparent, but when you mix it with the white, obviously it's going to tint the color, and it's going to make it more opaque at that point.
And what I will show you when we will since we are here right now, so let me show a little bit of, like last month we were doing. So I will show you. This is Verona green, and that is with lead white #1, #2, #3. It's stuck. So here's Lithopone, titanium, and Barite. So here's visible more. So you see how, you remember last month we explained what does it mean, that black bar behind. So it's to see the transparency, like see how transparent here. So if you see that black bar under, so that means the color is transparent. You see how even transparent Verona become more opaque with whites, and look how it shifted the color with titanium. It's become absolutely blue. So here's our Viridian. I will show you this, and again you see very transparent Viridian, and it become quite opaque on all of them, and you see what titanium did to Viridian. This is Viridian with Barite, and this is what we were talking right now about. Ultramarine. And here I wanted to show you very apparent here. I will try to see them. You see how that is matte looking, because that stock lead, what I was using for video, was with big particles. You see how here is glossy and how matte here, and here's your, you see how, what's the difference? This is titanium and this is stock. So again, I was mixing 50-50, and you can see the difference. And so you when you use colors, and if you use the big particles, and we had the big lesson about the particle size and the difference, and so you will see the matte surface compared to when you paint with smaller particles. It's more oil there, so it will look much more glossy. So here's our cobalt. Oh, here's pure color that I will not. So here's lead white number 2. Here's again stock, very matte. Here's titanium. Okay. And here's with Barite. You see how this, so this is full color, and that is just making a little bit more transparent with Barite. But cobalt is very...
And the transparency adds to the depth of the color.
Yes, that's true. So here's our yellow ochre. Again, very matte. And you see what's the difference. Look at this. Again, 50-50 with color, and you can see the difference. And here's with Barite. So, and of course on cadmium, you can't, cadmium red, you can't see at all. So the different, all of them look the same. So that's our swatches. I will leave that for now here. And so
we have some more questions.
Oh yes, let's do.
This is a good question.
Mm-hmm. Do you not recommend using stock for highlights because of the yellowness? It's actually opposite, and yellow, it's good. Then it's kind of bridge to what we will talk next. So we do recommend stock lead on very top layers. If you do need to boost the color, you can add a little bit of titanium. But what's interesting about stock lead, its behavior, because with stock lead you can actually sculpture your brush strokes. That's what, you know, it's so funny. We travel a lot with our class, our workshops, all over the world, and it's so interesting. We meet a lot of artists who will admire the, you know, Rembrandt, the, you know, old masters, let's say like that, and they come to museums and they're saying like, oh, you know, look, this brush strokes, and I want to achieve that. And then we're looking on their palette, and they're painting with phthalo blue and, you know, and modern synthetic small particle colors, and they are like expecting somehow to make the same brush strokes. It's impossible due to the physics of that pigments. So we are giving you that specific color with bigger particles because its behavior and how you can make that strokes. That's why actually opposite, we are telling you, due to the price of the color, that probably, unless you're just very rich person, so it would not be the, you know, the wise to use that on the very bottom. Use just simple lead white, which is less expensive, and leave your stock lead for the very top or very important strokes where you need that. Yes, George.
And one other thing too, you have to keep in mind that as an artist, you're in control of all the values in a picture. You can take the dingiest white and make it as bright as the sun simply by surrounding it with a series of different values that are darker. So it's all relative. Within the four corners of your painting, the values are relative, and you have total control over that. And what Tanya said about the control that the stack process gives you is really unbelievable.
You should ask Virgil Elliott. So he loves that color, and he will explain to you everything about yellowness on his language. So, but yes, it's true. So
here's another question.
Another one. What is the main difference between Barite and Velasquez? Just handling properties? Yes, handling properties, and it's a little bit different because in Barite we're just simply using Barite, and on Velasquez we are using several pigments. Like it's chalk actually the most. And I don't remember exactly, George, what other pigment you use, but the most important what we did there, we used Barite oil. So it's why Velasquez not only giving you bulk, and but the long strokes too. So that's the difference between Velasquez and let's say Barite is and Impasta. In Impasta is everything very short and bulky and like, you know, so but yeah, that's the main difference. Are there any consideration to take when using walnut oil and linseed based paints together?
Not really.
No, absolutely. So
just keep in mind that the walnut oil, anything with walnut oil is going to dry slower. So that's the main thing.
So again, remember, you can mix any oils. If you like walnut oil, yes. If you like poppy oil, we don't suggest to use that. And if you ask why, so we can answer next time. And same with safflower oil. They can go all together. The difference comes when it's drying time, and you will surprise like why one part is drying longer and another already dried, and that's where the sinking in happening often. So, but this is keep in mind. But you can mix any oils. Please elaborate a little more about what ways walnut oil versus linseed oil changes behavior and pigment.
You want me to address that?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay. So basically, oil and pigments react with one another. So, and because obviously pigments are chemicals, and they, unlike with other mediums, they're very reactive with the medium, and as a result, linseed oil tends to be, especially with reactive pigments, tends to react more than does walnut oil. So, and you get different things like you get different drying times. You get different rheologies or behavior of the paint. So a lot of different things like that. And that's why, as a paint maker, we may make choices between one oil or another.
Other percentages of titanium dioxide and lead titanium were by weight or by volume? Actually, it is by weight, because think it's like the our titanium tube. That's again how you will notice between other company and us. When you take our titanium, it's very heavy, and so when you you put two together, lead white and titanium, they almost identical in weight. Is there sulfur content in ultramarine blue making? Is it not compatible with lead white? Okay, George, speak in
so the sulfur content in ultramarine is very small, and besides, not all sulfur compounds in pigments react with or incompatible with lead white. So you have to clarify that. And usually it's usually due to impurities rather than the actual pigment.
So, and it was common more in beginning of 20th century and 19th century, but not anymore. So, because these days, industry is doing very well, which we will talk about a little bit about industry. Does the lead in the lead titanium our coolness and turn the somewhat to warm side. George, can you?
Do you have something for that?
Yes.
Basically, it does cut the coolness of titanium. It also reduces its opacity because 100% titanium is very
yes.
opaque.
Can you please put? Yeah. Okay. So we are here, and here's
you have that lead titanium mix
Yes.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see that it is
It is a little bit warmer.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a little bit warmer, but again, I would always compare it to lead instead of to titanium. So to lead, it does make cooler. So that's why I'm saying, so you see how warm lead and how cooler is lead titanium. So that's the difference. Okay. The ultramarine blue in the lead white number 1 looks more transparent than in the other leads. Is there just my screen? Yes, it's they absolutely. You can, if I will cover, you will not recognize what lead white number 1 or stock. They three of them almost identical.
So it's not more
No.
transparent.
No.
So they're roughly the same.
Yeah. It's just probably screen. In the glazing, what extenders could be used to make ultramarine blue more transparent?
Just about any.
Barite would be already, we made for you already, so you can do it. If you, we just made a new batch of ultramarine in our factory, and it's, we decided to make documentary from day 1 to the very last grinding. And this time, because we are making a little bit bigger batches now than we did before, so it took for us 2 days to put pigment to oil. Ultramarine is one of the weirdest pigments. What doesn't like the oil, it's repel the oil. It's actually likes water more than oil. So it's always repel the oil, and so like for certain amount of oil, we need to put certain amount of the pigment. So first day we put less than 1/3 of the pigment, and we could not start machine because it was so stiff. So 5 hours later we come, it was relaxed, it was absolutely puddle of the oil there, blue oil. So we added another 1/3 and we left for overnight because the machine was tired. So because it was even hot motors on that. So we come morning and it's again was puddle of the oil. So we added last third, and just by the end of the second day, finally it was the right consistency. So again, in our company, just because we don't put any additives, so our ultramarine will behave completely different. So, but it's long as it is, but to make that transparent, so it's depend what you add. So if you will add, let's say, impasta medium, so it will make transparent, but it still will be kind of like fluffy. With Velasquez medium, it will be more tacky, like longer. And of course with Barite, it's just you saw it will be much more transparent.
This is a good question.
Does particle size of pigment transparent to opacity?
Translate to opacity.
Translate to opacity. Yes, absolutely.
So what that means is smaller the pigment, the more opaque the paint will be.
Think it's like this. So if smaller particles, just think about physics. So smaller particles, they can connect to each other very good. Bigger particles, because usually bigger particles means they're uneven particles, and so they can't clump together. So then that's how they stay, and so that's why you can see the light penetrated through. So it's why with bigger particles it's much more transparent. Great question.
This one's not necessarily related. They're asking about egg tempera. Can you put a layer of egg tempera in between two layers of oil?
We know that it was done.
It was done mostly either at the bottom of the painting or at the top. But whether you can do that in between, that's...
Why would be the reason? So here's again, you need to kind of like to think about reason why. So like in case of you will put a tempera on the bottom, so usually it's to give the value and to dry that fast, and so that would be, but again that means you would need to use different surface, because in order to paint in egg tempera you need to have a porous surface. But if you paint again about on top of the oil, so that just to prevent certain colors to go to shift the color. For example, for azurite, this is blue color, but through the time, because of the oil going on top, so it's become green. So in order to prevent that color to change, so you can use the tempera. But you can call us back if you want, so because we need to know why would be the reason.
She explains that, or he, Monday explains egg tempera for small details. But, overall, the problem you're going to have is because when you apply egg tempera on top of oil, and if you're trying to do small details, you may get some beating up. And most of the time, what we've seen in history is that the egg tempera was applied as a final layer, as Tanya mentioned, to preserve the color. So that particular was an important aspect of that. There's a good question here. I think we need to, it's about mixing different oils.
I can't see very well in these glasses.
Well, I'll read it off. It says, just to clarify, you can mix the different oils like a combo of linseed and walnut, or if you add linseed to poppy oil, what will strengthen it, so forth.
So, better to note, we always say then the simpler your painting is, better on the end. But we do understand then once in a while you need something very different, and so like if you think then your blue or your white will stay better in walnut oil, because walnut oil, it's true, it's a little bit lighter in color. Yes, then on the very top layer you can use walnut oil. It's nothing about in between the oils. It's about the you're preventing the yellowness or darkening on the end. About poppy, same. Again, chemically there are no problem to mix together. The problem comes because some of the oils are not drying the same way as the linseed oil. That's why we choose the most for most of our colors to paint with, to make this with linseed oil, because it's the most stable oil. So we do know the instances where in 5 years after painting, and I do believe it's already open information about Schminke, artist in Europe was using the Schminke, and so he was doing very big impasto painting. It was sold, and 5 years later it started just leaking, and like it was completely dry 5 years before, but 5 years later it's liquefied. And so we don't know what other oils can do. I mean, now we know, But stay with linseed oil. The most chemically, again, if you paint very thinly, you can paint with anything, like any of these oils.
I think the main thing that people have to, you need to ask yourself why. What's the function of mixing oils? And you know, when you think about it,
Probably, you know what, George, you when you were starting to say why, because again, I think because people now, artists now using different oils from different companies, and what if you
different
like
oil or oil colors?
Oil colors,
Yeah.
what have different oils.
So it really doesn't make, so if you want the benefit of a paler colored oil such as walnut or safflower or poppy oil, don't use it at the bottom of the paint, you know, on the underpainting or in the bottom layers. Doesn't make any sense. Where you use that would be maybe in the top layer of the painting.
Yes.
And plus it's drying slower. What, you know, there's really no purpose in doing that. So I think that's really, as you said, keep it simple is usually the best.
Yeah.
Here's a good question from Herb.
Can you
What would be the amount of pigment you need to make a tube of stack from the pigment?
Thank you. So Herb, hello. We miss you. Usually we are in New York on this time of the year and see you, but okay. So let's put this way. So we sell pigment on 50 grams of jar. And when we made our new batch, and batches actually before too, so but we didn't realize them this time, the tube of the color stock lead, the latest batch, what I will tell you, the batch is 10126. So the tube weight 200 grams. For Americans who don't know what the grams are and how much it is, it will be half of your pound, half pound in one tube. So 200 grams. And this time lead white was so dense, we used only 8% of the oil. Usually it's coming, so then here's your idea. So then how much pigment per or how much oil per pigment you use? Usually it's 10% for lead white. For Mother Lake it will be 110%, but for lead white it's 10%. This time we used only 8% of the oil. So from your 50 grams of the jar, you will make 1/4 of that tube. We increased a little bit of the price of the tube, but we felt not well to make that worth it, what we understand and how much the pigment cost. And so that's why friends who called me, I always saying, you buy the tube. The pigment you can buy only for the purpose of to learn how to do this, to understand the property of the pigment, but it is much more economical to buy the tube. Again, it was our conscious decision because yes, company is losing money on that pigment, but you know, George did many more crazy things than that one, so that we are custom already here in our company. Talking about our company, oops.
I have another one. Just
okay.
Is that okay? Titanium white becomes amber, or does titanium white become amber by adding calcium carbonate? What type of charge, or I'm not sure if that's, do you put on it to make it equal white? Not sure I fully understand that question, but.
I think the idea is coming. So then with the calcium carbonate, it will make a little bit more transparent. I don't think it will make yellow more, because if I will show you next our yellowing charts, which we didn't do titanium yet because I just didn't have the time. And what swatches you will see today, it's from 2013 when we did have time. And but you can read on Golden website about titanium because that's what they do. So titanium was long time on their palette, and so they do have article. If you will not find it after that program, I will put in content here on message board. I will put that article. You can read about titanium. It's yellows as much as any other whites. Maybe not as much as maybe not like zinc. Zinc is one pigment what not yellowing as much as all other, but titanium yellowing as much as everything else. And I don't think that chalk will make that difference. I may be wrong. Just for that reason, just because you had that question, when I will make a swatches for titanium next time, I will definitely investigate that one too.
Another question, I'm interested in unusual textures possible with somewhat dilettante paint, handmade. Do you have any of your whites have a tendency towards dilettancy? Dilettancy, excuse me. The answer is no.
No, not among lead whites or not among the lead.
In fact, I don't think there's any white that has a rheopectic type behavior.
No, but I can tell you this.
Some umbers do.
Our umbers are.
Some, not all. No, yeah.
Because we actually usually don't like that behavior because it's pain on the neck, and so it's why George mitigating that in umbers. He's putting high viscosity linseed oil on certain proportions. But I can tell you this. So we will have. It's ready to tube right now. We will have, somebody asked another question about orpiment. We will have orpiment that is dilettante, that's for sure. So that one, and our lazurite is dilettante. That's the bad one. So that's the lazurite. And so I'm happy then we have these questions that finally artists started ask questions about behavior, because it was not exist before. George O'Hanlon started to talk about this 15 years ago. Finally we have it, and we love to talk about this. And on the end, probably George, we can put that on website to explain certain our colors. Before we go further, I want to talk, because I know we'll probably have more questions, and so I still want to talk about yellowing. But before that, since we are talking about that serious subject, George and I this week we are going coating symposium, which we are going every other year. We go into huge industry, big companies. They have symposium in Las Vegas and one in, I believe, in Chicago. 1 year in Chicago, 1 year in Las Vegas, and where the latest scientific discoveries coming to big industries. It's not, most cases it's not for us, but George decided then we absolutely need to know what's going on in the world, because what happened to our pigments, I told you last session on September, then we lost couple pigments. It's painful for us, and it's painful for us to tell you about this. For example, the latest one we are losing. We have just last batch left. It's Chromium, Primrose, and because nobody is interested to make that color, because it's lead color, and so George helped me how do I explain why is that happening. And on top of that, the small companies are gobbled up by big companies. This year alone, we switched three different, we didn't switch, the companies changed, so from small companies become big companies. And so nowadays, that's why we are canceling certain our events, because George is spending now more time to look for pigments and to find right pigments for us. And it's unfortunately becoming Walmart of the paint industry. So it's horrible. And that's why George bought more equipment this year, so then we will start to make our pigments. But before that will happen, we still rely on other people. And that's why we're going to Coating Symposium, just to understand what the heck is going on. And so do you have anything to add?
No, so we're, in terms of pigments, this is a common occurrence in the industry, and it has occurred throughout history. As an example, Egyptian blue disappeared during the Renaissance. Didn't even know it existed for centuries, and it was, in a sense, rediscovered, and it had been around for thousands of years before then. So these things happen. Genuine Naples yellow disappeared.
Genuine lead tin.
Lead tin yellow disappeared, and it's because,
and now it's chrome's disappearing.
It's because the pigment industry is not supported by artists, but by all the other uses, such as consumer products. And the one thing that we fear is that inorganic pigments are going to go the way of the dinosaurs, because they all have metals in them, and if that happens, then we're going to have basically a very small or good selection of pigments to work with. So we're hoping that all of these things, the inorganic pigments, continue to be supported by industry, but we'll see as time goes on.
And here's comes to prosaic thing coming. So it's of course the prices, and we didn't change our prices 6 years. So before that, we changed only once 6 years ago, and it was just 2% on certain colors, not in all. What we decided this year, we will not change the prices across offline. That will not happen, because some colors we definitely want to keep, even if it's crazy price like stock lead, and but certain prices we will change. And so you need to understand then it's nothing about us wanting so suddenly to change something in our company. It's the reality. And in fact, then, like this lead white was supposed to come to us in September, it was delivered yesterday, because it's nothing even about like what the boats are standing outside the San Francisco port. It's the company here in California, just traveling from one place to another, which is 3 hours before us, but it took that long. And so everything is changing. And so when companies sell you professional paint for $3.98, I think you need to start think what you buy in the tube. So because it's something wrong with that concept. So, and again, we will do our best. George, can you change please now for yellow? And we need to talk about yellow. And last month we just check about yellow. And if you want to see what we were talking about, go to September part. But what we didn't mention, I want to emphasize, when you have your painting in room of light, and suddenly you change to the dark room, it's yellowing. It could yellow that bad. I will show you in the second. So, but the moment you pull out to just normal light, you don't need to put on the window. You just can leave on light, and it will go back to your white color over a period 24 to 48 hours. It will be a original color unless you paint with something very wrong. But what we were going back and forth before, like months before, we had that in September, and now today, so it's another month exactly. And I can tell you that the yellowing part is going much slower, then we'll go back to white. It's much fast. It's like I said, it's 24 to 48 hours. It will be original. So let's look on that camera, George, and then we will return back to questions. So
and let's emphasize here what we're talking about. We're talking about darkness yellowing.
Yes.
So when the paint or
Yes.
a dried oil painting is held in the dark, all colors, not just white,
Yes.
tends to, but it's most noticeable obviously in white,
Yes.
tend to become yellow.
Yes, thank you. So here's, I will show you, this is two lead whites, and so you can see the difference. So this is 3 mil and this is 6 mil swatch. Same lead white. And again, I will show you, it's 2013. We made that swatches right before our first class we had. And you can see how yellowed. So this is 2 months yellowing. And this is how I just opened like a couple days ago again. And so, and you can see here too. So you see the difference between white and yellow part. So here's lead white number 2, and so thicker, more pigment it is. Obviously, it's less oil. So then this is what yellow in here in this part, and this is lead white number 2. This is Barite, and again, what do you see here? You see here the yellow, it's oil, because the Barite is so transparent. Look just to compare, you see how transparency you can see. So then Barite is very transparent. Don't be discouraged with that color, with that picture, because of that yellowness. Again, you don't usually, I encourage you, do not use Barite as a white color. So this is almost like extender, but you can see, I wanted to show you what lead white does to bone black. This is just bone black with this is with the lead white, and here with Barite, you can see the difference, how it's boosting the color. So, and don't pay attention to this, because this is my my guys but it's stuck lead, but I wanted to show you. This is stuck lead from different stocks, and so you can see then it's how yellow in here and dingy color here. It's again, it's all in the, about particle size. That's how, you know, if particle size are much bigger, so it's look different, it appears different. And so George, you can put me back. I promised you last time to talk about what's that, replacement. I decided to not show you, because it's ethical part of so if you are interested to know, if you want to know about the difference about the replacement, you can do swatches on your own of your replacement lead
Flake white is what some companies call flake white replacement.
Yeah. So look on that, make your own, and write us, show us pictures, what you think, and it will be interesting. So, more questions.
How does lapis compare to azurite for particle size and the latency?
So both of them will be dilatant, and both of them, we do have both of them in. So lazurite we still have in stock. Azurite is coming.
The particle size of azurite is much bigger.
Huge. Azurite is huge.
It needs to be that way.
Other ways it will not be the same color, and we were proud of that, but again, it's not for everybody. I just want immediately to say it will be expensive, and please don't jump and buy and then be like, investigate. We will show everything. We will show again step by step how we made that color, and we will show you swatches. It's all ready. Yes.
And then a lot of people are asking about lead tin yellow light. When is it be in stock? Probably next month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's again, don't be alarmed about this. This is just the problem with shipping. It's but because we do buy this in small company in Europe, and so it's just shipping, and it's coming, and as soon as it will be, we are not changing the price on that one. It's absolutely will be, yeah, probably end of the no, not end of the November, but somewhere in the middle.
Asking about in the EU cadmiums, they're not necessarily talking about banning cadmiums, but they have reclassified it as a class 1B carcinogen, which of course makes it unusable in many consumer products. But so far, the supply is still steady. Although one of the manufacturers this year stopped making it.
That's why, again, this is what I was talking about. So we were surprised because we thought here in United States cadmiums will be, it's still there. It's just lesser and lesser companies are doing that.
Okay, I think that's
about it.
That's it. Wrap it up.
So we are happy you were with us today, and I encourage you to check our Painting Best Practices website and see what we can give you. I truly believe that education is very important, not only for young people, but for all of us. Thank you very much. See you next month. Next month we will have this AMA show specifically for unusual gifts and unusual products in our website for holidays, or maybe just for your soul. So it will be very unusual AMA session. So I hope to see you next month. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.